welcome to Back Issues. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Ben.
We're doing Ant-Man this week in honor of the movie coming out next week.
Which Ant-Man?
We're going to do the Irredeemable Ant-Man. The only Ant-Man worth watching. And I say that not necessarily even really meaning it, because here's the thing. This Ant-Man is unlike any Ant-Man you've ever not given a shit about.
It's funny, because, like, I've given not a shit about a lot of Ant-Man.
Yeah, like both of them. Well, there's Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man. Plus, he's also Goliath and Yellow Jacket.
And he beat his wife.
And he beat his wife one time. Under one of those guises.
Well, he is the Irredeemable, correct? Because
no, he's not. Even he is redeemable. More redeemable, I would say, than this character.
Oh, wow.
But then there is Scott Lang, who is starring in Marvel's Ant-Man.
Right.
Because he didn't beat any wives, and you can make a movie about that character.
Well, he's safe.
Yeah. Well, he's a thief, but he's not a domestic abuser, so it works out. Look, and everyone in the comments is gonna freak. Hank Pym. Okay, he was crazy at the time, and it was a multiple personality thing. You know what? The reality is they could have undone it at any time. Marvel refuses to do that. It's like Marvel's like, no, we got to have at least one total dick.
But was that only in Ultimate Universe?
No. It was in every universe.
Yeah.
In the regular Marvel universe, in the old
that should happen.
That should happen like 40 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, so no matter what, Hank Pym beat his wife.
Yes, in the Ultimate Universe, he beat her savagely. Scott Lang's a thief. He's totally more redeemable than a domestic abuser. And he's actually starring in the, I guess now canceled, Ant-Man series. Because of Secret Wars.
Oh.
Before Secret Wars, there was this really good series that we reviewed on Off the Rack that starred Scott Lang, and I guess that's done.
As every series
that had existed beforehand, and every character that will exist beforehand. So, over.
So this is not Scott Lang either?
No, it's not!
Oh, I didn't know there was a third Ant-Man.
There is a third Ant-Man. Yeah, and it's funny because that's kind of like almost the theme, one of the themes of the Irredeemable Ant-Man is an element they play with later. This is we're only going to talk about the first volume, like the introduction, the origin story of Eric O'Grady, the Ant-Man. One of the later themes is the idea of there being this regular guy fly on the wall of the current running Marvel universe. So you might not have heard of him, but he was definitely there. That kind of thing. There's actually a brilliant cover they did after Civil War, and they ran the initiative. Tony Stark created the Mighty Avengers, which is a team of super douches, and kind of quasi-leading that was Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel, and the cover's by Frank Cho, and she's like, yeah! And later, when that series was coming out, Irredeemable Ant-Man was also coming out, and they did a version of that cover. It's the same cover, but they did a little zoom in on her finger, and he's there, like, yeah!
That's cool.
He does not get to be an Avenger until, like, long after, like, Captain America came back from the dead. He became a secret Avenger one time. But, it's for the best.
Well, he's irredeemable, so
yes.
he can even be an Avenger.
So the book is basically just, like, about these regular people in the Marvel Universe. But not so regular. It's actually almost like a pilot for the S.H.I.E.L.D. show.
Okay.
Because that was Joss Whedon's mantra when he created S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
He was like, it's good about regular people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But not really, because one is like an ace pilot who's also a killing weapon. And, you know, we got ace computer hackers and unkillable agents.
Yeah, total everyday people.
Yeah, regular everyday folk.
Well, just not superpowered people.
Right.
Except one of them didn't get superpowered.
Yes, and then in fact, Season 3 is all about building a superpowered team.
Yeah.
So in this, it's actually true to life. These are.
But he gets the Ant-Man suit, right?
He gets powers, but only in as much as he's wearing a suit that has powers.
Yeah.
But before that, it's just about these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and the main S.H.I.E.L.D. agents we got to worry about are Eric O'Grady, his best friend from childhood, Chris, and their supervising officer, Mitch. So Eric is a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. He's like a surveillance officer. He and Chris are surveillance officers on the helicarrier.
So they look at cameras.
Yeah, they're just lowest level shit job.
Once in a while they play Galaga.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that'd be amazing. O'Grady, get back to your station. But they're shitty level S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and Mitch is their supervisor. He's like a defense type guy. Like he's a higher level, and he actually deals with security. He's a security officer. And they actually have like poker night in Mitch's quarters because he's the biggest room because he's the commanding officer.
Okay.
And during those poker games, like you see these other two agents who gives a shit about, but they talk about what's happening in the current Marvel universe a little bit.
Okay.
Later, that'll actually be played with. Yeah, it's a cool idea that the writer doesn't even have an idea about until like later issues. But in the first one, O'Grady's tossing out this idea. He's like, Nick Fury isn't even real.
Because they've never seen him.
They've never seen him. And, so there's this guy, he's been around since World War II, and he's in charge of this world peacekeeping No.
Oh, and he's really distinct because he has an eye patch?
Yeah, he's an eye
Who
patch.
has an eye patch?
Yeah, why did you just fix the eye if we got all this crazy tech? Like, and they're all like, no, you're out of your mind. And he's like, think about it. Like, we're all in this crappy organization that deals with superpower being. Like, we should have, like, this cool one-eyed Superman that's our commanding officer. Otherwise, why would we join? Otherwise, like,
right.
What makes us different from joining the military? Why do we join this one organization? It's because we have these super guys,
Right.
who may or may not even exist.
So it's like they think he's like a myth that was created so they would sign up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Join S.H.I.E.L.D. You might
They're not
meet
far
Nick
off,
Fury.
right? Because aren't half of the time you see Nick Fury, it's a life model decoy anyway?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Also, do you need Nick Fury to get recruited to S.H.I.E.L.D.? If someone came to you and said, I want you to work for S.H.I.E.L.D.
No. I would fucking die.
You want to believe that the organization is larger than life.
Yes.
All right.
And that has a larger than life figure.
If
at the
Nick
head.
Fury then came to you and said, I want you to work for S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I would be like, why? We would have to have a long meeting.
But if some agent just came and said, work for S.H.I.E.L.D.,
Hell
you'd be
no.
like, fuck off.
Get the fuck out of here.
That's surprising.
I'd rather be
Nobody.
saved by S.H.I.E.L.D. than
Yeah.
work for them.
You don't want to be responsible.
I also don't want to be murdered by the Abomination.
Right.
Well, that's why the superpowered people are there.
Yeah.
To save you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
they-
we've seen those movies. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents get picked off left and right.
Yeah.
They're almost all dead at this point.
And so in this story, we meet Eric and Chris, and they're old childhood friends. And Chris is clearly supposed to be the protagonist.
Okay.
He's down on his luck, he's not very good at his job, but he's got this schlocky idiot friend, and he's helping him out. Like, they both joined S.H.I.E.L.D., but, Eric would never even made it to surveillance if it weren't for Chris.
Okay.
And Eric is really digging on this chick named Veronica, who also works for S.H.I.E.L.D. They're on the same level, the same pay grade. And Eric asked her out a whole bunch, Eric asked her out a whole bunch of times. She fucking rebuffed him.
Right.
And then Chris breaks the bro code, and he's all like, hey, so you want to go out sometime? And Veronica's like, yeah, you're not Eric O'Grady, sounds great. And later on, Eric finds out, he catches wind of all this, and we find out that, in fact, they've been dating for a long time, but he knew that Eric would kind of freak out about it.
Okay.
I should also point out that, by the way, like, I don't know how I'm going to tell this story because it's told with two timelines going on. One is a flashback, and the other one in the present day.
Okay.
So I'm giving you kind of a little backstory about Eric, but it's like you don't even find out half this shit until like issue 3 or 4.
Is this Veronica here?
Yeah.
She's pretty hot.
I know, right? All the women in this book are hot, and here's why. The writer has absolutely no respect for them. And they have no interesting qualities besides being objects for men or being vehicles for the plot.
At least he's not beating her, right?
No woman actually gets...
well, not yet.
No, Eric never beats a woman.
Okay.
Hank Pym is staying on the helicarrier, and he's working on a new Ant-Man suit. And the reason he's working on a new Ant-Man suit is because S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to have their own Ant-Man.
Okay.
It'd be great for sending out into the field. Man who can shrink and has the same strength when they're tiny.
They want like a whole army of them, though.
Yeah, they want a bunch of Ant-Man. But they're hard. The suits are hard to make, and you need Pym particles in order to power it anyway.
Yeah, where are they
Yeah,
going
but
to get all
can't you
those
just make Pym particles?
Yeah, well, Hank Pym makes them all the time, but and he uses them regularly. So I assume that they're probably mass-produced in some capacity. But at the same time, you also need a suit that can synthesize them. If you just take them, it's kind of unpredictable.
There's a lot of fucking words in this comic.
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at this shit.
I know, and it really doesn't matter. Literally the scene he's looking at is just Veronica and Chris are talking about how Eric wouldn't really work out with her and how it's just a weird relationship. And also Chris was late to their date, and they're having weird, uncomfortable conversations, and she's like, this date is not going well. And he's like, well, then how about you and me go do something that we're both really good at together? She's like, well, then we'll go to my place. And then they fuck, and you're like, okay, that's weird.
That is weird.
That, by the way, never would work.
Yeah.
If the date's not going well,
This is not going well.
I have a
we
better
better just
idea.
have sex.
Yeah,
We should go straight to sex.
yeah, you know what? Let's just bypass the whole courting period.
Unless that's what she's...
She is incredibly vacuous.
Maybe she just likes sex.
I mean, clearly, and that's reinforced later. So Chris and Eric are enlisted by Mitch, their supervisor, to pretend to be security officers. Because Mitch has been asked to do something really important on another level, and he had to divert S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to deal with that.
Okay.
But they also wanted him to divert S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to guard this door, but he didn't have enough S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and so he just wanted to look like he could do them both at the same time.
Okay.
So he's like, Chris and Eric, you're gonna like pretend to be security officers. You're just S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Just hold these guns and just
Deter
stand
anyone
next.
from
Just
attacking.
stand by the door.
Yeah.
That's all he says, and then he leaves. So Chris and Eric are talking back and forth about. First, they talk about Veronica, and he's like, "I can't believe that you're dating Veronica." And he's like, "Yeah."
And I have a gun right here. Just
No,
saying.
at no point does Eric really think like, "Fuck this guy, I'm gonna kill him and take his chick." But then,
That would be a little extreme.
I
That
know.
would be irredeemable.
You're not far off. So Chris and Eric are talking, and Eric actually introduced the idea. He goes, "So are we supposed to keep anyone from getting in, or are we supposed to keep someone from getting out?" And Chris is like, "Ooh, I wish you hadn't asked that, because now I'm really worried."
So then they open the door.
The door
The
opens.
door opens, and this dude comes out, and Eric fucking headbutts him in the face and knocks him out. And it's Hank Pym. It's his lab.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And in fact, there didn't even need to be a security detail there. Mitch just wanted to impress Pym, because they're doing a training regimen to figure out who's going to be the S.H.I.E.L.D. appointed Ant-Man, and Pym's going to do the picking. And Mitch wanted to impress Pym by putting on security guys on his
So
own.
that he could be Ant-Man.
Exactly. So Eric knocks him out. They bring him into the lab, and they're figuring out what they're going to do until they see the new prototype Ant-Man suit. And they're both like, ooh. And then Chris is like, I'm going to go try it on. So then Chris puts it on, and he's like, this is pretty awesome. It's pretty bang.
Yeah.
And then Eric's like, okay, now you take it off so I can try it on.
Right.
And then Chris tries to take it off, and he winds up shrinking. But Eric doesn't know that because he's a dumbass who doesn't know who Ant-Man is.
Well,
So
He just thinks
assumes
it's a superpowered suit.
he just assumes he disappears.
He
Chris is
runs
just gone.
away.
So he's like, shit. And then Mitch shows up, and Mitch is like, why is Hank Pym unconscious? And these guys are... And
had
one
one
of your,
job.
Yeah, you had one fucking job. And
Yeah, but you didn't tell us what that job was.
yeah, exactly. And so, since both of them are kind of fuck-ups, Mitch and Eric, but in their own different ways, they both decide, okay, we're just going to keep it quiet. Let's just not talk about it. Like, they're going to start looking for the suit. They know that, like, and Chris probably doesn't know how it works. Right now, everyone can probably walk away from this. Mm-hmm. So Chris winds up like running through the ventilation shafts during the next couple of days, and
A couple of days?
yeah, for 2 days he's missing.
Well, ventilation shafts are
does he
huge
eat?
when you're really
Yeah,
tiny.
the helicarrier is massive, and then
Right.
you make yourself the size of an ant,
And
and
he can't figure out how to get big again?
no, because it's a new suit. And he's also like, I'm a dude. Like I'm not Hank Pym, scientist supreme.
Okay.
So Eric actually winds up getting flagged down by Veronica, and she's like, "Where is Chris? Like he was supposed to meet me."
Right.
And he's like, "All right, like I can't tell you that because he's also trying to keep this a secret. He's trying to I can't be like, oh, he took this experimental ant suit and disappeared. We don't know where he is."
Right.
So he takes her into a room, and he's like, "Okay, he's on a secret mission, but he'll be back."
Right.
And she's like, "Okay, cool." And he's like, I'm surprised that that you guys actually are dating. And she's like, "Yeah, it's been a while. And actually, like I know that he told you it was only a little while, but it's actually been a long time." And he's like, "Oh, really? I had no idea because Chris has been shipping this chick down in security for a long time." And Chris is in the Ant-Man suit in the ventilation room, like looking at this, and he's like, "You fucker."
Was that true?
No.
Or-
No.
Oh, he just...
I imagine
No,
not.
he's just trying to make her ditch him.
Oh, he's just a douche.
He's just a
He's
douche.
an irredeemable douche.
Yeah. So
Why doesn't Eric go strip the girl in security?
I know because he already did.
He's probably just like, there was no girl
Oh.
in security.
No, he already did. Like he actually mentioned the girl that he had been stripping at the time. Chris eventually winds up re-beginning himself.
Okay.
Well, thank God.
I know, and he does so during a point when Hydra attacks the helicarrier.
Oh,
So
shit.
the worst time possible.
Yes, and Chris actually thinks like, okay, I'm Ant-Man. Like I'll try to stop them. So he like tries to punch one of them, and he just like screws up. I think he tries to like set one on fire because like the new Ant-Man suit has like jetpacks
Okay.
or like booster rockets and like a flamethrower and all kinds of cool shit. Because just talking to ants and being able to shrink and whatever, like you
Not
need
that
the
useful.
advantage.
Yeah.
So he tries it, doesn't work, and then he just runs away. And he's like, being a superhero sucks.
But he's big at this point, trying to do all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So then he shrinks back down. He's working it out. Like he's big, he's small, whatever.
Right.
He runs into Eric, and he's like, Eric, I can't believe it's you. Like, we got to get out of here. And by the way, you're a fucker. And Eric is like, and so Chris and Eric run to one of like these rooms. Oh no, it's one of the quarters.
Okay.
So Eric's like, okay, he opens the door, and then he pushes Chris out of the way to get away from the Hydra agents. He's like, meet me first!
Right.
And gets in, and then Chris runs behind him and gets shot in the back of the head by a Hydra agent and killed. But right before he dies, he says, I can't believe that you lied to Veronica about me and that girl. And then he dies, and his brains leak out all over the floor.
Oh, fuck.
And Eric is like, oh my god, I better take off your Ant-Man suit and put it on. So he does, right as the helicarrier is coming down.
Oh, shit.
Well, I'm gonna save myself. That's who Eric is.
Bingo. So he shrinks down to Ant-Man size, and he's like, wow. He's looking at all these dead S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. He's like, holy shit. And then later, he actually he uses the jetpack thingy to like survey the carnage, and he winds up finding Nick Fury.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, wow, so he's real. That's cool.
Nick Fury was on board this helicarrier that got shot down by random Hydra agents attacking it.
Well, some of them were super-powered Hydra agents.
Oh. So this is a very serious attack that's just kind of randomly happening in the middle of the story.
Yeah.
Is it referenced anywhere else?
No. In the beginning, they're establishing this universe, and they even referenced Wolverine Enemy of the State, because Wolverine is being deprogrammed by Hydra on the helicarrier at the time, so it does actually take place within continuity. Hydra comes back, they want to get him back.
Oh. Deprogrammed from Hydra.
Yes.
Okay,
Hydra had done a mind fuck on...
We call that a mental whammy.
And made Wolverine into like a killing machine for them.
For that.
Oh, so they just put an illusion up of the mansion being attacked.
Right. Stay back, everyone! I'm trying to save you! Why are you killing us, Wolverine? So, Chris is dead, and the helicarrier is destroyed, and the surviving S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are given a month's leave of absence.
Oh.
And so Eric and Veronica go to Eric and Chris's hometown.
For Chris's funeral.
Does he keep the suit?
Okay.
Yeah, he puts it in a duffel bag and brings it with him, because he's like, this is great.
So he's just going, it was destroyed.
Yeah, well, he's like, who knows what happened to it? He doesn't even know.
Who knows what happened?
He should technically not even know what happened to it.
Right.
How about Hank Pym has a locator on it, like a tracking device?
Eventually,
of some sort.
Hank Pym does develop a Pym particle tracker that they use to look for the suit. So don't worry, that does come into play. So Chris is dead, and they bring his body home, and Eric and Veronica go and stay with Chris's parents. Eric tries unsuccessfully to hook up with Veronica while they're there, and so blue-balled and bored, Eric O'Grady puts his Ant-Man suit back on, and he just starts like hopping around, like looking for things to do, and he winds up happening upon a domestic dispute next door. This woman's being beaten by her husband.
Is it Hank Pym?
No. No, it is not. Other people have these problems.
Oh.
So this woman's being
Just
beaten
happens
by
a
her
lot
husband.
in Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this woman's being beaten by her husband, and Eric knows that he has augmented strength when he's tiny. So he's like, I know, I'll just be a superhero. So he hops onto the guy's shoulder, and he's going to punch him. And he punches him in the neck, but it just goes into his neck and into his jugular. And then he just pulls his arm out, and it's covered in blood, and blood starts shooting at this dude's neck.
Oh, shit.
And he collapses, and of course, like, nobody saw this little guy, so she's like, what the hell happened? This dude's been beating his wife, and then all of a sudden his neck explodes, and,
He got a little bit too vigorous, I guess.
yeah. Well, it's also like, you don't know your own strength. Like, don't punch that. Like, punch a jaw or something.
Yeah, if a little tiny thing hits you, that's like a knife.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it would still sink into the skin on the jaw.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just like, there's a bit more structure there to back it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he fucks up this dude, and then he's like, alright, well, that didn't work out. So he leaves.
I mean, he did stop the guy from beating his wife,
But
I guess.
the cops actually show up, and they're like, what happened? And they're like, you look a little roughed up yourself. She's like, it was an accident. You're like, oh, that's nice. Thanks for that story. So that's not the least uncomfortable you'll feel throughout this book. So Eric winds up. They go to the funeral, and then they still got like a month's leave, and he's like, well, where are you gonna go? And she's like, I'm gonna go stay with my parents I have nothing left for me here. They go to his grave to say goodbye one more time. And she's like, you've been really nice to me. This has been really, really great. And he's like, yeah. And then they start making out.
And then they make out.
On his grave. And he starts, like, taking her clothes off so they can bang on his grave.
Oh, my God.
And then she's like, okay, stop. This is really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he, like, looks over at the gravestone of his friend's name, and he just says, what are you looking at? And then he leaves. They both wind up going back to S.H.I.E.L.D. And while they're there, Mitch, his supervisor, starts to suspect that maybe something's up with Eric. Maybe something's up with the missing suit.
Is Mitch missing half his face?
Yeah,
yes,
his
his face will eventually be explained.
Okay.
No, throughout the story, you got these paralleling timelines where Mitch is hunting down Eric, and what the hell happened with Eric in the suit,
Right.
all going on. It's 6 months in the past and the present. So they're kind of like leading you to learn what happens to Mitch's face.
Got it.
So Eric is so Mitch is given the task of looking for the prototype Ant-Man suit by Hank Pym. He's like, you were going to be the Ant-Man of S.H.I.E.L.D.
to be the Ant-Man.
And Mitch is like, I knew it!
Yeah, exactly. And so he gives him his shitty old, like, Ant-Man suit with the fucking thing. He looks like old Ant-Man.
Mitch, you will be the Ant-Man once you find out who stationed those guards in front of my door and punched me.
Oh, it was Eric O'Grady. It was Chris, that dead guy.
Yeah, he did that on his own.
Yeah. So
Problem solved.
Mitch becomes Ant-Man 2 or whatever, and he goes looking for Eric.
Okay.
And Eric, meanwhile, he finds out that he can talk to ants using the ant suit.
Oh.
And
Is that before or after he spies on girls in the shower?
that's later.
Oh, okay.
That's a trademark. That's like
Nice.
Spider-Man saying, "Spider sense tingling." Eric goes in girls' showers and watches them in states of undress. So Mitch is looking.
Irredeemable.
Yep. So Mitch is looking for Eric, and Eric is meanwhile like securing his consummation with Veronica.
Oh.
They wind up like hanging out more, and Veronica is like, you find out what kind of like person she is, I guess, but it's also kind of weird just in general, where she's like, everyone I know is either dead or like in a coma, like in a S.H.I.E.L.D. hospital right now.
Right.
So you're the only person I know, so let's like go out.
Okay.
And so they do, and then he bangs her.
I won't try and find other people.
No, or
At all.
meet anyone new. I'm just gonna, since you're the only person I know and you're a fucker, I guess I'll just hang out with you. Like,
That
so
makes sense.
he bangs her, and he's like he says something like, "I knew it.
He said I knew it was only a matter of time.
Knew it was only a matter of time." You're like,
And he says, not bad.
yeah. And then he tries to wake her up to fuck some more, and she's too sleepy.
Yeah.
So he puts on the Ant-Man suit and he goes into the air vents
And
to
he
go
goes to
hang
talk to
out
ants.
to go hang out with ants.
Right.
And he winds up actually. What's funny is when he's like learning how to communicate with ants, he's trying to figure out if he can like make them do things or if like they just listen to him. And it turns
Right.
out that like ants just listen to him. They don't listen to his commands. They can be strongly influenced.
Okay.
So he winds up making ants race each other, while other ants and he hang out and watch that. So he's like, "Come on, use your thorax, let's go!"
Oh my god, okay.
So anyway, he goes to feed the ants, and then Ant-Man 2, Mitch shows up, and he's like, "Okay!"
We're both really tiny. It's unlikely we would ever run into each other. But
But he must have tracked
here.
him. He
Yeah.
tracked him using Pym's...
I don't think he got that yet.
No? He
No.
just fucking shows up?
Yeah, he's just been... Well, he's probably running around the ventilation shafts.
Yeah, but they would cover, like...
I know,
The
it'd be
entire-
miles.
Yeah.
It'd be hundreds of miles.
Yeah.
So
Whatever.
he finds Eric, and they fight, and then Eric winds up using the ants to gain the upper hand. The ants kick the shit out of Mitch while
Oh.
Eric runs away.
So Eric's a better Ant-Man.
Yeah, well, he did the suit
Well, he already
longer.
figured out the ant thing.
And he's already fed them.
Right.
That's true. And he says something like, they'll like you better if you feed them, but I bet you don't have anything in your pockets, so bye.
Right.
So anyway, he leaves. And Eric takes off the suit, and he's like, whew, like that was close. But they don't know who I am, so I think I'm safe.
Right.
And then Veronica shows up, and she doesn't find out he's Ant-Man. She's just like, where were you? You've been gone for hours.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I was working on something else. And she's like, why did you lie? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, why don't you just tell me where you went? And he's like,
Right.
nah. So she's like, you're a jerk. And then she leaves.
Good
And
for
then-
you, Veronica.
Yeah.
You terrible person.
So then later he runs
I'm
into her.
sorry, not terrible. It's just like, you're weird.
Yeah, she's
Eric
not-
is terrible.
Yes, she's an odd duck. So he winds up, Eric winds up running into her again, and she's like, listen, Like, I'm sorry I yelled at you. Everything's fine. Like, you want to do something later? And he's like, nah. And she's like, why? Like, why didn't you just say you didn't want to see me? And he goes, like, it's not that. It's just that, like, every time I see you, it's more like been there, done that. You know what I mean? And she hits him, and he's like, why? Like, I'm being honest with you.
Oh my god.
Because it's a shitty thing to say.
He's just a total asshole.
So then she runs into her quarters, and she cries.
And he says, that woman's crazy.
Yep. By the way, she's crying because she's pregnant.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But don't worry.
It's Chris's.
No, it's not. It's Eric's. But he never does anything about it. So, Mitch suspects that Eric is Ant-Man. They're playing poker again, and they wind up talking about House of M. And how they're like, well, they say the mutants are like all gone. And they're like, that doesn't make any sense. How can you get rid of all the mutants? Like, they're probably just hiding and waiting to attack or
Did
something.
House of M just happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the book has so many delays that, you know.
Right.
So, the hands wind up being like it's Mitch versus Eric.
Yeah.
In the poker game, and it's really high stakes. And Mitch is like, he's got nothing, and Eric's like, you wouldn't know because I'm an amazing liar. Like, I could tell you anything and you'd believe me. Like, he just basically betrays what a psychopath he is.
Okay.
Like,
And then-
I could tell you I'm Ant-Man.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe me.
He doesn't do that. He doesn't go that far, but he doesn't have to. And then Mitch flips over the table. He's like, I knew you were Ant-Man! And he just starts beating the shit out of him. And then Eric winds up using his amazing ability to lie to convince him not to beat on him anymore. And then he says, listen, just take me back to my quarters and I'll show you I'm not Ant-Man. You can look for the suit. You can call a detail. And Mitch's like, okay, fine. So then Mitch opens the door, and then Eric pushes him out of the way and then gets into his quarters and then closes the door. Then he puts on the Ant-Man
suit.
He gets in the suit, shrinks down, and runs away. So then Mitch and
So he's
What
caught.
the crap is going on?
I know. So then he's caught. Mitch puts on his Ant-Man suit, and they start fighting.
Right.
And the fight goes through the Shield commissary, and like Dum Dum Dugan's there. Nick Fury's like old right hand man with the fucking hat, and they're fighting through the food, and they like jump up and they start fighting on the brim of Dum Dum Dugan's hat. Eric gains the upper hand, starts beating his head against the floor, and then he's like, "Just leave me alone. It's all I want. I just want you to go away." And Mitch's like, "No," and he grabs onto his arm or his leg. And then Eric goes like, well, hope you can fly. And he turns on his jetpack and melts half his face off.
Oh, shit.
And then he goes, oh, shit, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, I melted your fucking face off. And then he goes back down there. He grows to regular size, picks up tiny melted Mitch. And then he like runs over to the infirmary. And he gives the teeny weeny Mitch. And he's like, you gotta call Hank Pym. He knows how to deal with tiny people. And then he leaves. And what does he do? His brilliant plan is he just changes into his regular clothes and tries to leave on the next Quinjet that's like doing soldier transfer.
Right, because no one's going to look for him, and they certainly don't have trackers or IDs.
Right,
nobody knows it's him except for Mitch.
Except for Mitch. And Dum Dum Dugan fucking finds him immediately, and he's like, okay, so you're coming with me. And then Eric just jumps off the helicarrier in his Ant-Man suit.
Right, he's got the suit on, but it's under his clothes.
Well, it's actually okay. So
he has the helmet.
The helmet is regular size, and he wears that. But the suit shrinks and then goes into the helmet. So if you push a button on the helmet, the suit will come out and fit your specifications or whatever.
Okay.
How does it go on you?
Magic.
You have to go into
I know.
clothing.
But
like,
no,
No,
this
there's
is...
it'll just. I guess it's got buttons on the back.
Considering that the
so
suit can...
It's also probably made of unstable molecules. You see the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards invented unstable molecule clothing, so that like his suit would stretch, and like Johnny wouldn't be naked when he's on fire.
Right.
And I assume that the unstable
This is like
molecules
the Flash keeps his suit in a
ring, yeah.
And he just
Ant-Man
says
keeps
it,
his suit in
and
his
it pops it on
helmet.
him.
Yeah, it's just
It just comes on,
and it
yeah.
just shoots out, and then it's
Yeah.
over.
Just happens.
It's
So,
funny
because
because
they don't want to have to like draw a person
Going
get
like,
into a
"Oh,
phone
I gotta
booth and
put
put
this-"
their clothes
Why
on.
don't we have this technology yet? Because I really just want to
Yeah.
be like, that outfit.
Because
huh.
it's fucking
All right, cool.
impossible.
yeah, because there's no way it would ever work ever in any way. You never say never.
No one's worked it out yet.
Yeah, I'm sure no
Well,
one in any.
How would it work?
Well,
How would you get?
That's not for me to figure out, Ethan. I'm not a mad scientist.
How would you get molecules to spontaneously assemble themselves in a very particular pattern, complicated pattern?
Well, not only
Magnetic
would they
fields?
also be closed, but it also has to be like closed with working circuitry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Magnetic fields. That's my answer.
That's not even anything.
No.
Oh, come
You
on.
have to
Electric pulse goes through a cape and suddenly it forms rigid shapes like in Batman Forever?
You
Or
can
no,
make
I'm sorry,
you
Batman
can make a
Begins.
thing
Yeah.
change shape from like a flowing
Batman
thing
Forever.
into a stiff thing. That's very different than having a thing like wrap itself around you in a complex topography with multiple holes in it for your like limbs and so forth. No.
Slap bracelets.
That's
It's a giant suit with slap bracelets in it. And they just wrap around and connect.
So Eric winds up putting on the Ant-Man suit, and he just like starts hiding out. And he's like, I could probably go off the grid. I'm tiny and shit.
yeah.
No one will ever find me.
So then we go back to the beginning of the book.
Okay.
The beginning of the book is the present day, and what happens in the present day is there's this chick Beth. She's in an alley. She's gonna get raped by this dude. Eric O'Grady, the Ant-Man, springs into action, figures out how not to stab someone in the neck, punches the guy in the face. Is a tiny guy, grows to regular size, picks up her purse, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go out sometime?"
What?
And she's like, "Okay,
What?
sure. You saved my life, I guess.
Okay.
You seem like a superhero, so all right." He's like, "Great, I'll see you at this really expensive restaurant, 8 o'clock." And she's like, "Okay." And she's like, "How will I know it's you?" And he's like, "Well, I'll be wearing my suit." And she's like,
That's
she-
weird.
She goes to the restaurant, and then he shows up as Eric O'Grady, and he's like, "You didn't think I was actually going to wear my Ant-Man suit, did you?" That's, no. Anyway, let's go.
How would I eat?
Yeah. So then he sits down, and then he goes, "Oh, by the way, I forgot my wallet. Do you mind spotting me?"
Oh my
And she's
God.
like, "Okay." And he's like, "Great. I'll have your finest white wine and Oyster Rockefeller, if you don't mind." She's like, and they're like, "And for you?" She's like, "I guess water." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not want to like do that?" And she's like, "No, it's fine. Like, I owe you a dinner. You saved me from rape. I guess that's fine." So then they have their date, and he explains to her, of course, how he became Ant-Man,
Right.
which is like he found the suit after a battle with Doctor Doom. You know, his friend was killed, and so his friend bequeathed it to him, and so he became Ant-Man.
Wow.
And so he winds up taking a cab to her place, and then he pays the cabbie, and she's like, "Where'd you get the 10 to pay the cabbie?" And he's like, "Oh, I must have had an extra 10. I'm sorry. Whoops." She's like, "Okay. Anyway, you want to come up for tea?" And he's like, "You bet." And she's like, "By the way, tea means tea. Doesn't mean sex." And he's like, "Okay." So then they go up, and they have tea, and like it says like something like 30, 40 minutes later, she's like, "Okay, we're not fucking." And he's like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, it's been 30 minutes. You've been looking at my apartment like I'm renting it, and you haven't drank any tea." And he's like, "Whatever, okay. You know what? Fine. Works for me. Anyway, have a great night. I'll see you later." And he leaves, writes down the apartment number, goes out, asks the cabbie to spin around the block a couple times, comes out in the Ant-Man suit, goes under her door, into her bathroom, and then just hangs out and waits for her to take a shower.
Oh my God.
What an asshole this guy is!
Yeah.
Wow.
But don't worry, because...
Why is there a book about him?
Because, you know, it's Ant-Man, man.
Sometimes the
Sometimes-
Ant-Man suit gets taken by a total asshole.
Yep, sometimes you need to read a comic about a total scumbag. So, Mitch has been hired by S.H.I.E.L.D., or rather charged by S.H.I.E.L.D., to go find this fucking Ant-Man suit.
Right.
But his face is melted off.
Not by himself, though, right?
No, now he gets a contingent. He also
Thank
gets Nick
God.
Fury's cool flying car.
Okay.
And the reason why he gets all this is because, as Maria Hill says, the Superhuman Registration Act is about to go into law, and we're going to need all the agents we can get. And since you are half deaf, half blind, have no depth perception, and are going to be retired soon, I figure I could spare you and a couple of guys. So he is really mad that Eric has stolen his life and his livelihood and everything. So Hank Pym gives him the fucking Pym particle tracker device.
Okay.
So Mitch has been is now hunting Eric, and they use the Pym particle tracker to find Beth's apartment. They go there, and they're like, "Oh, he's been here," and she's like, "Yeah, he was just here. I rebuffed his advances, and then I sent him packing, and then I took a shower." And they're like, "Oh, there's readings really strong in here. Actually, he's right here right now." And then he like pops out from under the couch. He's like, "Go away!" And she's like, "Oh my God!" And he jumps out the window, and they fight. And actually,
It would have been really funny if they were just like, "You took a shower? That's his MO! He must be here!"
Oh no! You didn't realize he was quasi date rapey.
She's like, no, I actually kind of knew this.
Yeah, I kind of got
actually
that
doesn't
vibe.
surprise me at all.
Yeah. So, Eric winds up hiding on the flying car that Mitch is using,
Of course.
and then he pops out and like gets regular size and sits in the passenger seat with Mitch, because Eric is such a psycho. he thinks that because he and Mitch were friends, that maybe if he just talks to him like a regular person, he'll go away. So he's like, Mitch, listen, like, you and me were buddies. Like, why don't you just knock it off?
And then
Mitch is like,
shoots him.
are you out of your fucking mind? And then they just start beating on each other. And then Eric grabs the PIM device, throws it out the car, it hits a door or a wall, it explodes. And then he, like, pushes the fucking steering wheel, like, down. And he's like, you better get out while you can. Jumps out, fucking shrinks down.
Wow.
Mitch doesn't die. I'm surprised. And then Mitch pulls the car up, and they're like, shit, I guess he's gone.
So Eric's actually pretty good at being Ant-Man.
Yeah, he's really good at being Ant-Man. So then he's like, shit, I have no apartment. They know who I am. I'm on the run. I guess I better find a new place to stay. So he sits on this, like, ledge, and he's just people watching. And he's trying to figure out, like, who he's going to, like, stay with. And he's like, okay, she's too fat. She's ugly. She's got a wedding ring. Looks like she's got kids now.
Oh, my God.
And then he's like, okay, she's got big boobs. She's blonde. She's hot. Done. Jumps into her purse. Sees the shield detail. Realizes it's Carol Danvers, a.k.a. Ms. Marvel. And he's like, uh-oh. And that's the end of Volume 1. Ant-Man. And then later, they really, like, play up the whole, like, regular douchebag, like, fly on the wall during Marvel. So, like, you'll see Eric O'Grady deal with World War Hulk. You'll see Eric O'Grady deal with Civil War and the Initiative.
Wow. So
Yeah.
he stays around for a while.
Well, when Robert Kirkman's writing your Ant-Man book, you get to keep him on for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, Robert Kirkman wrote and created Eric O'Grady. Phil Hester drew the book. Has a very, like, Mike Oeming feel to it.
I am dumbfounded.
Do people like this book?
I don't know.
I think if you like this book, there might be something wrong with you.
I mean, like,
He seems a little bit like Deadpool.
yeah, a little bit, except Deadpool is way more redeemable.
Well, yes.
See,
Well,
Deadpool is
irredeemable.
redeemable. Yeah.
Right.
And Kirkman's basic explanation is, it says it in the title.
It's Irredeemable Ant-Man.
The fucker Ant-Man. If you're
Right.
surprised as a fucker, that's really on you.
Yeah.
Why did you expect to like this book?
Yeah, no, but, like, why did you make it?
Yeah. I thought it was going to be irredeemable in, like, a fun way.
Yeah. Like, no. It's not fun. Well, it's fun for him. Irredeemable Ant-Man. Still more interesting to read about than Hank
Scott Lang.
Pym or Scott Lang.
I'm just a bad dad.
Yeah, I'm a bad dad, but my daughter loves me. Yippee. Yeah, I think I saw that in Mrs. fucking Doubtfire.
You know what? I choose to be a dad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be Ant-Man.
Oh, by the way, this one's also a dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, later she eventually confronts him, Veronica does, and she's like, you're gonna be, you owe this child.
You have got to be shitting me. She doesn't get rid of it.
No.
What?
So she has the kid.
I thought she just found out she was pregnant.
And then has an abortion? No.
No.
She has the kid. So there's a little Eric O'Grady somewhere in the movie. And actually not anymore. Secret Wars.
Well, yeah, that's all gone.
But
there would have been.
But no, she does. And this is the redemption for him, I guess, is that he chooses not to be in the kid's life because he's a bad person. And he knows that he'd be a horrible father. Now, that said, you're still an asshole who refuses. It
doesn't take that much to decide to be a deadbeat dad.
Right. In fact, you don't have to make any decisions whatsoever.
Right.
Don't worry. I'm not going to be a deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
I will disappear.
There, now I'm the hero, right?
Yeah.
No, because I'm a good person, because I'm
I'm
self-reflective
not
enough.
like suing you for custody or anything like that.
I'm not fighting it. I'm just leaving. Well, would you like to pay child support and alimony?
Oh, no.
What?
Don't you shrink down.
I know you're still here.
I know you're still here. I'm going to take a shower later. Eric O'Grady. I fucking hate that guy.
Yeah.
But, like, you're supposed to.
Yeah.
I always find it difficult.
Why did we do this book?
Because honestly, it's one of the few Ant-Man series that has actually gone over 6 issues.
Oh.
I'm also willing to bet it's one of the Ant-Man stories that evokes a reaction.
Yes, it's
instead
also
of
kind of
like,
interesting.
All
And it's
right.
available on
People
Comixology and in
probably
the
have an
stores.
opinion on the Irredeemable.
No doubt. I'm sure there's a lot of people who really like him. I think they're, they think he's funny.
Yeah, like sociopaths.
Yeah, exactly. I see a lot of myself in that guy. You should.
we
you
cannot
should
be friends
call a
anymore.
hotline. Irredeemable Ant-Man from the mind of Walking Dead's Robert Kirkman.
So weird.
Yeah, but like I said, no woman has any identity or characterization whatsoever. She doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
This is not past the Bechdel test whatsoever.
No.
But even like I was actually really annoyed when he pisses off Veronica. He's like, been there, done that, mer. And she like slaps him and then goes to her quarters and cries. Full page of her crying. Like, panels of her crying. And I'm like, really? But then they show the EPT test, and you're like, oh, that's still fucking stupid.
I guess, like, no, he's a real fucker, and he ruins lives.
Yeah, Eric O'Grady, ruiner of lives.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's just going to be a shot in the back of the book of, like, all the people's lives.
That'd be amazing if there was, like, an Eric O'Grady hit list.
Chris, Veronica, Mitch.
Yep.
It's a weird
More people.
thing for a book to do, to make its protagonist so unlikable, and to really drive home, like, the emotional impact that he has on it.
Yes, it's not enough that he's a bad guy and then he just
But you
just
can't
uses
even
people.
like have fun with him being a douche, because it's like, but no, like,
But
he
no,
really
look at the
fucked over some people.
Yeah, look
like,
at the
real bad.
impact.
It's one thing to make a villain, an actual
Right.
villain, the protagonist of a story, because you know they're a villain.
Yeah.
But this is just, he's the worst superhero. Like,
Well, he's
and
not
then-
even a superhero.
And then he eventually, he becomes
He
kind
saved
of...
Oh, yeah, he
one
does
girl
become
being raped.
Yeah, and he does become a superhero. Like, he does actually
Ultimately
wind up
he
becoming
does,
like an Avenger.
Like, that's the disjoint...
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it's weird because it's more like, I mean, it's almost like what a regular, like what a real person would be like with an Ant-Man suit. But it's
Yeah.
like, I know real people. We live in the real world, and I don't know more than one person who is like this guy.
Yeah, like, this is an uncommonly...
This is an uncommonly
Dickish.
douchebag. Like, this is
person.
a real fucker.
I mean, I haven't read it, but it seems like the tone is kind of humorous.
It's supposed to be kind of lighthearted, but
it's got those real serious moments,
Yeah.
too, which I find, like, disconcerting.
no, well, like, all the scenes are...
It's a really awkward humor.
Well, the
Yeah.
art is deliberately light, so that I guess it's not so dark. Like, it's just not so because of like Mike Deodato Jr., the guy who drew Original Sin, where it's like kind of realistic.
Yeah.
And also, like, a lot of shading. And
Yeah, a lot of shading. This would be a horror book about a psycho who ruins lives and thinks it's funny.
Right.
This is like, wee!
Yeah.
Until you think about it for a half second, or just read the damn thing, and you're
Yeah.
like, ugh.
Yeah.
But I guess it's also, for me, I think it's an exercise. I think it's Robert Kirkman being like, see what
Let's see what
Marvel,
happens,
see what
yeah.
Marvel will let me do.
Yeah. I want to do something totally different
Push some
Yep.
boundaries.
Yeah, and like that's neat.
that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm amazed Marvel let this come out.
I'm shocked.
It's by
Now,
Robert
Disney
Kirkman.
Marvel never would let that happen.
Yeah.
But Kirkman will never write for Marvel again, so, that'll never happen.
So, no worries.
No worries. There won't be a sequel. But yeah, so Irredeemable Ant-Man. Get in line to pick up your tickets for Ant-Man if we haven't already convinced you otherwise. Anyway.
I'm excited.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
The
it's not
story
gonna be Eric.
notwithstanding.
Now that you've seen this,
Right.
maybe the other Ant-Man won't seem nearly so bad.
That may be a bit of a stretch.
Anyway, we'll see you guys in another episode of Back Issues. I'm Sal.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Ben.
So long, and don't take this character as a role model.
No.
If you do, you are a bad person.
Seek help.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, when you're going to the theater to see Ant-Man, be sure to keep your eye out for some dickhead named Eric, because he
Right.
might be
He
in
might show up.
I get the feeling that, for some reason, the fight in the new Ant-Man movie between...
Yellow
Ant-Man
Jacket and Ant-Man.
Yellow Jacket, yeah. Is inspired by the two Ant-Mans fighting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you want to see a little fight. That's fun.
Yeah. I assume that's happened before.
Yeah, little Ant-Man fighting. Yeah,
Is
I mean,
it-
like, well, Pym and Lang have fought,
Okay, well, there you
so
go.
As Ant-Man.
yeah.
Have they fought a supervillain who also had a tiny suit?
Not really.
Okay.
Like there
So
are
Yellow Jacket doesn't exist.
Yellow
Yellow
Jacket does
Jacket
exist.
exists.
But he's an alternate personality / identity for Hank Pym. In Ant-Man the movie, it's just a douche.
Okay.
It's just another corporate bad guy. It's just Ironmonger again. And as I was telling Ethan earlier, like, if you were gonna make a bad guy who's just a regular guy who puts on a suit and becomes like whatever, and you want to make it silly and fun,
Yeah.
why not just make it fucking Justin Hammer?
Yeah.
Like, why not make Hammer Industries
Yep.
compete with Pym? And, like, Justin Hammer's like, okay, I know I can't beat Tony Stark, but I could take down this fucking old guy with his shrinking technology. And then you have a wonderful opportunity where Sam Rockwell gets to be in your movie again.
Yeah.
And he gets to do something, where he gets to put on the Yellow Jacket suit.
Yeah.
Because you know Paul Rudd's going to be great as Scott Lang. He's going to be hilarious Ant-Man. why not have an equally or even more so hilarious Yellow Jacket?
Especially as Yellow Jacket, you love to hate.
Yeah, you
Sam
want...
Rockwell makes a great asshole.
He's so great. You know what? Maybe they're saving Sam Rockwell, and then he'll become Ant-Man in the next movie, and he'll be called Irredeemable Ant-Man.
Ugh.